Hey, what is the deal with this virus? Watch out! A Fatberg! You're listening to a special edition of Our Different Take. Welcome, everyone, to Our Different Take. My name is Brian, proud father of two awesome boys, an epic Star Wars fan, classical guitar player, virus dodger, and reporting from our top secret bunker somewhere in the Midwest is Matt. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, Brian. Thanks. Yeah, I'm actually in my closet right now, which is where our secret bunker is at my house. Everybody, my name's Matt, proud father of 4 children, 3 dogs, and I am married. I like disc golf, conspiracy theories, and I'm very interested to talk about the coronavirus today.
Correct. Lots of stuff to talk about, but we will instill our own sense of our different take humor throughout the podcast, even though the virus is not something to joke about. So
you almost have to joke at this point. It's pretty depressing. Yeah.
It is. So I suppose we ought to say like the opinions here are just our opinions only, and you can take it or leave it as you want. But maybe we'll, get your head spinning in a different direction than what everyone else is. So,
right, and no matter what we say, and no matter what's shared here in jest or in try to be in good humor about the whole thing, we mean no disrespect. A lot of people are dying. And a lot of people are very sick, and we understand the seriousness of it. But through it all, life has to go on. And if you have a sense of humor, you can find your way through. And my take is a little macabre and a little more dark, but everybody's got their own way of coping.
Yeah.
So that's just my take on it.
Absolutely. I agree. Well, we're not going to have the same segments as our usual podcasts on this. We still will have some segments here. We're going to start out with a normal segment, but moving around a little bit. So here we go. Ready for the ride.
And now the moment you've all been waiting for. Our Different Take.
So we've got some notes here that we're talking about the history of some viruses first to try to compare past pandemics to the current pandemic. Okay. Now, some of this stuff is coming from my perspective where, honestly, you'll probably get where I'm going with some of this, which might be different from yours, Matt, or it's different from the media or anywhere. Right. So I think we'll just go through this and then we'll talk about it as we go through the stats. Does that sound okay?
All right.
Well, okay, so if we're going to compare Corona to the most recent pandemic, which was in 2009, the H1N1 pandemic.
Was that an actual pandemic? I didn't know that they had labeled it a pandemic.
You know what? They might not have labeled it a pandemic back then, but the numbers for that are actually higher than the current pandemic.
Got it.
So I guess we can label it as a pandemic now, since we're labeling Corona a pandemic as well.
Right. And H1N1 was a flu, right?
Yeah, H1N1 was the flu. It was a version of a flu, kind of like Corona.
Right.
First diagnosed in humans in Mexico, and it was from 2009 to 2010, pretty much, is when it was around. Okay, there were 60 million cases. And this is worldwide, 274,000 hospitalizations in the U.S. alone, and 12,469 deaths in the U.S. alone from the H1N1. Worldwide, in the first year, this number's kind of big and it varies. I couldn't find like an exact number, even though there probably is one out there but 151,000 people all the way up to 575,000 people died worldwide in the first year of the H1N1 pandemic. And 80% of the deaths were in people that were 65 or younger. It was kind of opposite from Corona, since Corona seems to be hitting the older population more than the younger. So
I think that's pretty interesting that you said that. It's funny because the deaths seem to be in people over 55 or 60 years old, but the people being hospitalized, 40% of the people in the hospital right now are between 20 and 45.
40%, you
that's
said?
a big chunk of people.
That is.
From what I read yesterday. It's a large chunk. And so it seems to be hitting every country differently. Like Italy right now, they have a 10% death rate.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say they have a much older population, and they do, but the numbers don't quite bear out the 10%. And some say that this, and I have heard a couple of times, and I haven't heard it from the CDC, but I've heard it several different times from doctors on YouTube, that the strain of the the coronavirus that's in Italy right now is a slightly different strain than the one that was in Wuhan. And it's actually more virulent. And they expect it to mutate several more times before this is done. So we don't really know what we're going to get on that.
Right. That's true. Well, in Italy, I got some stats on Italy too, actually. We can go over those real quick. So, in October 2019, there were 3 million people in Italy affected by the flu. There were headlines at the beginning of 2019 and in 2018 saying there could be an outbreak of the regular flu, and they're expecting 70,000 Italians to die from it the following year already. So people were asking why are Italians hit so hard? Well, they're saying that it's an older population. They like to take care of their older folks. So kudos to them. They all live together still. But almost 50% of the adults there smoke as well.
Oh, yeah.
So if they're living together, they're an older population, they smoke, and they're planning on losing 70,000 people already to the flu before Corona hit. It's already a huge, massive problem in Italy even before Corona gets there.
Right. I think their hospitals were full of flu patients before they even got the Corona going.
Yeah, I believe you're right. Because they're saying now that 70 to 80,000 people will probably die from Corona, but is that some of the regular flu as well?
Yeah, you don't know. And I don't know that they're taking the time to autopsy those people. I heard again today 900 more people died of Corona in Italy in the last 24 hours. So they're getting up to almost 1,000 people a day. That's a lot.
It is a lot. I think if someone...
And it's so fast.
Right.
And I think the flu is over a longer period of time that you don't think about it as much, but it does just tend to overwhelm the healthcare system completely.
It does. Because
there's just so many.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at, if you haven't guessed already, is some of this stuff I think is media driven. Some of the hype is media driven, and that's where the chaos we're getting here in America is media driven. A lot of it is, because if you look at the let's take some of the headlines for H1N1 back in the day, which is about 2010, and then I got one from 2014. September 29, 2010, H1N1, the virus can mutate, so they were worrying about it to mutate as well. December 11th, there was just 10 dead as the swine flu. Well, H1N1's a swine flu. January 20th, 2011, they're talking about patients recovering because of certain antibodies. January 15th, 2013, they're talking about the swine flu, how it has a low death rate. Study shows Tamiflu saved lives in the pandemic versus headlines for Corona.
Tamiflu.
Yeah, Tamiflu. I've had that before. Versus the headlines for the Corona, some of them now, it's where every day, if there's a new case confirmed, they're going to report it. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to report every single person that dies where if they had done that where the flu was coming out, we'd be freaking out because of the plain old flu, honestly, because the flu.
Right, but there are some distinctive differences in coronavirus and flu.
Okay.
So coronavirus is a novel, no, what do they call it? A novel virus. In other words, the human genome has never seen this before, whereas we've seen flu for a bazillion years, right? So our bodies can adapt and make antibodies to the flu, whatever kind it is, and a lot of people die. But the novel coronavirus has never been seen before. It's the first time it's been around because somebody ate a bat or whatever. The markets over in China, the wet markets, put animals from all different parts of the world together in very close quarters in cages, and they share germs, and they come up with these viruses that we've never seen before, right?
Yeah.
So the coronavirus may kill less people than the swine flu, but the people that recover from the swine flu don't have holes in their lungs. They're not sterile, and they don't have major heart damage. All those things happen with the coronavirus. Even if you recover, many people are finding 20% decreased lung capacity, 20% decreased heart capacity because it damages the heart lung. The virus itself goes in and damages the heart muscle so that you can't, it doesn't fully actuate when it pumps. And then the people that do recover from the coronavirus, many of them that have had the pneumonia part, which is the very end, which is the 2 to 3.5%, however the statistics go in this country, end up with large, almost like a large canker on your lung, and it turns into a scar tissue, and that part of the lung is no longer viable or usable.
Got it.
So it's not like a flu that if you make it through, you're like, man, I'm good. It's much worse because our bodies have never dealt with it before.
Right.
And all this stuff is I try to listen to doctors on YouTube that are legit doctors. CDC, different people from different universities around the country, and what they're seeing is a little bit alarming. I think that's why there's more panic now. The media, for sure, hyping everything up like it's a big deal, but it is kind of a big deal. And if you get it and you're young, you will likely get through it, no problem. It'll be the worst 2 or 3 weeks of your life. I heard it's very painful, and you'll make it through. But a lot of people are finding out now that due to high fever, there is been, and I've heard it in a couple different places, they're just starting to discover that people are sterile from it. And then also the heart issue and the lung issue, which you might get through, and you might be okay. You might be 100% fine, but there are some people that won't be. And it's a little terrifying because it comes on so fast. And I think that's what drives the hype, is the speed of it. So you might not, and it takes 14 days really in some cases for it to come on. So you might have it for 2 weeks and not know it, and be spreading it around. So once it hits an area, it's several weeks before anybody really knows what's going on. And by that time, it starts to ramp up. And then you get, everybody at the hospital's hanging out, a bunch of empty beds. And all of a sudden, in a matter of a week, you have 1,000 people at your door needing treatment.
Right.
And it just, by the nature of it, is overwhelming. And I think that's where the fear comes from, because people, once it hits, game on, man. If you're not prepared, your hospital's not going to work very well,
Do they know what percentage, or they probably can't, it's probably hard to tell now, what percentage of the people that are afflicted with it are having those issues with their lungs and heart and sterilization?
And it's hard to get good information out of China. I think some of the information is good and some of it you have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I read the other day was really interesting. And I can't remember, I'm sure you have, Brian, the numbers and how many people died in China. And I think it was somewhere, it was many tens of thousands of people, as I recall.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I don't have the exact number, but somewhere in that range.
these clever people. There's so many smart people out there. There's a YouTube channel. I'm gonna pull it up while we're talking. That I have listened to in the past, and they're very they're all China all the time, and they've posted some interesting stuff about China. And what they went back and did is they went back. There's 3 major cell phone companies in China. They're all state-run, and they're all, I believe, publicly traded. So they put out their numbers of subscriptions every month. And they went back and looked, and through deciphering through the numbers and kind of accounting for people that, were out of work and don't have phones and things like that, there were some 29 million less cell phone subscriptions.
Really?
From December to March. And if you factor everything out, even poor students and things like that, there's still a gap of about 6 million cell phone users that are unaccounted for. Now, that in and of itself isn't very sketchy. You're like, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe everybody was just hurting for money, whatever.
Right.
But the fact that the Chinese communists went and changed the way they report 2 days later, they took that out of their reporting. That's very telling.
Right.
So I suspect a whole lot more people died in China than they're letting on.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect that all those people that don't have cell service anymore have been cremated, and you will not hear from them again. And if their relatives speak up, you won't hear from them again either.
Right. Yeah, they're long gone by now.
Right. So I don't know that we can trust those numbers. We can definitely trust the numbers in Italy.
Yeah.
Which are terrifying.
They're not going to hide anything.
In the fact that if you do get it, maybe you'll recover, maybe you won't. And with the right care, most people recover. But once the hospitals are overwhelmed, then what? And I read something today that was very interesting, put out by the Ford Medical Center in, I think it's in D.C., isn't it? Gerald R. Ford Medical.
Ford Medical. They usually work on radiators and trucks, don't they?
Ford. Yeah.
Sure.
The Ford, hold on, I can pull it up here because I thought it was so interesting. The people at Ford had a letter that they hadn't released yet, and it got out accidentally. But essentially what the letter said was, to the families of the people in our care, we want you to know that in these trying times, our facility's been overrun with cases of H1N1. COVID-19, and just so you know, we'll be triaging people and ventilating people on a basis of how healthy they are, how likely they are to recover, and if you're on a ventilator and you're not showing signs of recovering, we will take you off.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Else. That's a little spooky.
It is spooky.
I get it. I get the need to triage, which is really what that is. It's just saying, hey, if you're 90. And you come in here and a kid that's 20 comes in at the same time, he's going to get a ventilator and we're going to put you in a room with a priest. And
that's exactly what it is.
Which, to an extent, I understand. But that is part of I think everybody's fear, that kind of thing. Don't have enough masks. Well, first it was masks don't work, right?
Right.
Oh, you don't need any masks. They don't work anyway.
Right.
Oh, well, okay. But now it's, they only work on doctors. You don't need a mask, but they need all the masks. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that now, but initially I didn't get why they would lie to us. They will lie through their teeth. So the way I see it going down is they know it's going to be really bad. So what is it? Hey man, social distancing. Let's just let's shut down bars and theaters, and let's just take it easy. It's like boiling a frog, 1 degree at a time, right?
Exactly.
So how do you get from absolute freedom to no freedom at all? You go from shutting down the bars and restaurants to shutting down everything but essential to shelter in place, which is where we're at. And that's probably where we'll stay for a while.
Right.
But where does it go after that? I don't know where you go after that. Martial law?
Well, that's next.
I don't know. I don't know why you would, though.
Well, so I think they're setting a precedence here with this virus, right? So what happens when next year or 2 years or 3 years down the road, there's another virus that comes out of somewhere? Well, here's what we did.
One in China right now.
Right? It could come from Congo. Who knows? But they're like, hey, this worked last time, but not quite as well as we thought. So now we're going to take it a step further. And now, I don't know what a step further would be, is martial law, where the military is patrolling the streets, where we have, like they have, or like they wanted to do with this last bill, is make all the money digital. So now they'll have control over our money. Right. So I think
that scares me.
That scares me horribly as well. Right. Some places you can't buy a gun now. They shut down the gun stores too.
Right. I heard that.
Right.
I heard that.
So I think all this, not to say that Corona is not bad, it's really bad, and it's really affecting people in their lives. But I think if you look at the big picture, there's something behind this to where they're slowly taking away our freedoms. And this is a stepping stool for that.
Well, it's happened before. It's not unprecedented.
Yeah.
During World War II, people's movements were restricted. People were told what they could and couldn't do. They were told what time they could be out until. There was always curfews.
Mm-hmm.
They were told what they could eat, what they could buy at the grocery store. There were certain days of the week they didn't eat certain things. I think it was like no meat Wednesday, or I don't know. It's not necessarily unprecedented. But in my opinion, and I don't know how you feel, Brian, but if you don't already have your guns, shame on you.
I
if
agree.
you don't know a thing about guns, and because there's a sickness out there, you decide to go out and buy a bunch of guns, I think you're a danger to yourself and others.
I agree.
You know what I mean? You should know. And I saw a post from a buddy of mine, Forrest, the other day. He posted on Facebook that, hey, if you're going to go out and buy a gun, please call me. I'll totally come over and run you through all the gun safety, and show you how to safely handle your weapon and things like that. It's so important because anybody can buy a gun. Anybody, as long as you're not a felon, you can be the biggest idiot in the world, and I know a bunch of them, and they can all buy guns.
Right.
So, I think should people's right to buy firearms be inhibited? No, absolutely not. In my opinion, going to a gun store and buying a gun, people died for that, right? You should be able to exercise that right, unless things just got really bad. I mean, really bad.
Right.
So I'm okay with that. And I think you are too. I think anyway. But to a certain extent, I mean, I feel like the only thing that'll work is shelter in place. And I really feel like the president could have shown, and I don't hate Donald Trump, full disclosure. I really don't. I like what he's done with China. I like his foreign policy.
Yeah.
I think he's not very good in front of the camera. And I don't think he is a natural born leader in front of the camera. I think he sounds not great in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And he just kind of rambles. I think what we need is a Ronald Reagan, a great communicator, and somebody that'll rally the American people. We should have sheltered in place for 3 or 4 weeks on the beginning of this and just been done with it, cut off travel across the pond, and stomped it out in the very beginning. But we didn't have any tests, which is something else we should probably talk about. What the fuck is up with that?
Not having enough tests? No, I don't.
Yeah.
Actually.
Who dropped the ball on that? They should probably be, at least called out and flogged publicly. Like, that is terrible.
Yeah.
But we saw this thing coming and didn't, but we wanted, here's how I see it going down. They're talking in a briefing room, and one guy says, hey man, we think this is going to, come over here. Should we contact the UN? They have a test already, and let's try and get it around all the states so everybody can test. And I almost guarantee you somebody said, no, I've got a friend over at, Ted's pharmaceutical company. We could make billions on this test. Let's make it at home. We'll do it ourselves, and let's all get a piece of that pie. Oh, okay, great. So they made a whole batch of them, screwed it up so we couldn't use them for weeks. And then the whole time, the UN's got this test that's readily available. The Germans had a test that they had already released all the information on. Anybody could use it. And we have to develop our own test because the bureaucrats in Washington have to be the guys to get a piece of the pie. And people die because of that. I really feel like there's a reckoning coming when all this is over. I think heads are going to roll.
There should, because like you say, the bureaucrats got their hands in everything. And if the FDA doesn't approve it, well, then we gotta wait. It's got to be approved by the FDA, and it's got to be approved
and they even
by
waived it.
Who cares, right?
It took forever, and they finally they're like, well, you can use your own test, but you have to send it in then for the CDC to confirm it. Well,
Jeez.
you assholes,
Right?
People are dying, and it's not the people at the CDC, it's not the low level people, because all of them are actually risking their lives every day. God bless them all the medical people, the people that are every day fighting for
sure.
For heaven forbid you or I or anybody else that gets into the hospital and is desperate for help, and they help everybody at the risk of their own family and their own lives, and it's awesome what they're doing. But these other people, the high level bureaucrats, those assholes, what are you thinking? It's not always about $1. It's not always about $1. Just shut the country down, get the test in line, and then move on. But they have to drag it out because nobody wants to shut down. I got a friend that works at Nissan here in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
South Colorado Nissan. The day the shelter in place went into effect and they banned car sales,
Yeah.
you could still keep your shop open, but you couldn't sell any cars.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because it involves a lot of face-to-face contact.
Right.
And of course, what did they say? Their owner was like, "No, bullshit. We're running full steam ahead. Let's sell cars until they make us stop." What an asshole! Whose grandparents are you going to murder? Who are you going to kill?
Well, that's what it comes down to.
No dollars are worth that.
Everything comes down to the dollar. Doesn't matter what it is.
Well, for some people, not for you, not for me.
No, not for us, but for the bureaucrats it does, and the
I agree.
People who own companies. Not all of them, because some of them have really I've seen. They've given up their salaries for their people, and
Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah,
right?
Texas Roadhouse for sure. Yeah.
What an amazing human being that guy is.
It's very cool. Very cool they do stuff like that. But then it comes back to the people who are running our government still.
Right.
In this this $2 trillion thing they just went through. How much pork is in that? It has nothing to do with what's going on. Right?
It's 800 pages long. I haven't read it. Have you looked at it?
No, I've looked at certain pages, but not like 800 pages.
It would take a week to.
Who writes this? Who writes this stuff? 800 pages.
Everybody, everybody. So I feel like when you're in Congress, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think I got it nailed. Where, when there's an emergency, when there's a something that goes on with the whole country, there's a lot of bipartisan cooperation. But at the same time, everybody's looking back and they're thinking, Ted's auto dealership group really gave a shitload of money to my campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I owe them a little bit, So let's keep that open. Let's try and keep that open for those guys. Now, shut down the bars and the restaurants, because those guys don't give shit. They're not organized and they can't do anything for me. But let's help the guys that have really helped me through my campaign. I owe them,
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
think that's how it goes. I
Yeah,
really do.
100% right. It's
and
wrong.
there are really a lot of people that have stepped up, but it is wrong.
Yeah, it's wrong.
It's wrong, dude.
The bill should be like 4 pages, right? Here's where this money going to. This is where this money going to. In 4 pages, you could spell it out. You could even double space it if you want. Doesn't even need to be single spaced.
I'd be okay with 100 pages. 800 pages.
800 pages.
Now, I get every state's different, okay? So you're dealing with 50 independent states, all under the federal government. But really, that's how our country's, it's not America. It's America, the 50 states. And they all have different laws.
Right.
And they all have different governors. And so I get to some extent that it's going to be complicated how you're going to meter out and dole out that money, and how you're going to help these affected companies, especially small businesses. Like, there's a lot of complex issues there. The fact that they could do it in a few days scares the shit out of me.
Oh my gosh.
Even with an army of people. And
Right.
and I think they're just kind of putting it in place, the framework in place, and then they'll, as it flows downstream, the states will make their rules on how that gets doled out. Because the governors have people to pay back too, brother.
They do, which is scary.
Yeah.
Which is scary in itself.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's how politics works, man. And what was it, Churchill? He said, democracy is, what did he say? Anyway, he said it was vile, in other words, but it's the best thing we've got. So
Hey, I think you just did an impersonation of Biden right there.
Did I?
Yeah.
Let me paraphrase.
You're like,
Dude. Well, I'm a couple drinks in, so anyway,
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I'm sure there will be a reckoning though, especially on the testing side, because people died because of lack of testing. A lot of people are still dying because of lack of testing.
Right.
And I think you had so many people in, especially New York. What a cesspool of shit that place is. Everything's public transportation. Everything's everybody on top of everybody else. Everything's ride sharing. Everything, it's just a huge population of people waiting for a pandemic to happen. And New York City gets hit, but they don't know, right? So they're, we only have 1,800 cases or whatever it was. And all of a sudden the next week it's like, 8,000. And then it just keeps going, Right. And so nobody knew, had several people been on top of the whole testing situation, a lot of people would not have probably died just for the spreading around of the disease. So I don't know, and people act like it's nothing. It's not nothing to the thousands of people that lost their parents.
Yeah,
or
seriously.
The people in one of the southern states that lost their 12-year-old daughter. It's not nothing to them.
No.
Or the 18-year-old college kid I heard about the other day that was going on a football scholarship that got obliterated by the virus. And he was fine, and 2 days later he was dead.
Yeah.
It was so fast. It's not nothing to them. They're gonna want a reckoning at some point.
Yeah, it is serious. I mean, this disease affects a ton of people. I just don't want it to come to the point,
too,
right, where we lose what America stands for because of this. Right?
No, I 100% agree.
And the end result is we're back in Germany in the 1930s.
God bless Governor Polis. Initially, they had closed the gun stores, and he reversed that. I got a letter from the NRA that he did reverse it yesterday. Wow. They reversed that, and you can still go to the gun stores here and buy a gun. And I think that speaks a lot to him wanting to,
for sure.
Number one, there's so many people that want that here in Colorado, especially that he responded to that. I think is pretty telling about.
Well, that's
about.
Good.
I do think it's good.
Right.
We'll see. I think, like I said, man, I don't know, if a pandemic hit, I'm good. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I ordered some more ammo just for home defense in case, things break down and
right.
Somebody smash in my door and try and
right.
take my good scotch or something.
That's what they're coming after. That and your toilet paper.
My toilet paper, which I have an ample supply of, by the way. That leads me. Do you own enough toilet paper?
Do you? I do.
Are you all set?
I'm set. I'm set. We'll discuss this a little bit later in the podcast because that's an important topic as well. But yeah, I think I'm set. It's not like a 3-ply. I think it's just 2, but it's better than what you'd get at McDonald's or whatever.
It's not India, I guess. I feel bad for those people.
Do they even have toilet paper?
I don't know, but I saw an interview with the lady the other day, and she's like, I can't buy food for my family. The markets are closed, and I got nowhere to get food. What am I supposed to do? Jeez. I hope I'm never in that position. I think a lot of people there are, but I did see a really funny video. My wife showed me. I'm constantly on YouTube, and my wife showed me this video today of the police officers in India. There's a lot of people going out on their scooters and trying to buy food and stuff like that, and they're all supposed to be sheltered in place. And they have these long sticks. They're about 3 feet long. And they whoop them on the ass. The cops do. They hit them really hard until they drive away. They just drive up and start whipping people with these sticks. And it's legal there to get brutalized by the police, apparently. And these people are cursing at them like, screw you, man. And they're like, and they take off, and the cops just keep beating them with sticks, until they leave.
And then it's crazy. Go home after they get beat with a stick?
Apparently, here in this country, that'd be a dangerous proposition. But there, they just get beat with sticks and go home, man.
So what if you just don't stop? Just don't stop because you're going to get beat with a stick. Just stay on your scooter.
Well, they find them when they're parked. They get them parked. And
they catch them.
Let them have it. They catch them red-handed.
They like waiting behind a bush.
And I actually saw a video. I saw in the video like 4 people sitting in a circle, and the cops are just walking around and hitting them with sticks to teach them a lesson.
Like
crazy shit, man.
Like a group beating?
Yeah, like a spanking. Yeah.
Why don't you hit you with my stick?
You know we're going to get an email about that, right?
Yeah. Sorry about that. I don't mean to offend anyone. But
think about it much. What is the beating?
Man,
anyway,
well, I guess there's different ways to do it wherever part of the world you're in. Whatever you got to do to.
Well, if you're in China, it's much easier to contain a pandemic in China.
Well, you just burned
the
to
thing
death
is,
there.
I'm
You're
so
dead.
shocked that the government was able to do it because those people. I mean, you think about hot, humid climate, living on top of each other. They're not very sanitary. There's a lot of weird diseases that come out of that place. The wet markets are the main reason for that. And I think after this is all over, that's got to be dealt with. The American government has got to put pressure on the Chinese to get rid of these wet markets. They are dangerous for the whole world. And if not, honestly, I think we just dismantle the regime and we just take them down. But that's just me. I'm a warmonger, I guess. But I think it's so dangerous.
I think we've learned to not have China make everything for us. I think that was a big win out of this.
Right.
It'll be a win if we decide to move stuff over here to the U.S. to manufacture, for sure.
That's true.
Pharmaceuticals.
Well, I mean, there's 20 other countries in Southeast Asia that are not communist that we can source our products to.
Yeah.
Why fund the communist machine? Why let them force people to have abortions and kill their family members and harvest organs from them when they've done nothing wrong and all these other things? Why should we support the Chinese communist regime when there's so many other countries that could use that money that don't brutalize their people, that aren't an awful regime, that aren't a nuclear power, that don't try and take over the South China Sea? Mm-hmm. There's a million reasons to not go to China.
Yeah. Well, maybe this will be an awakening. And we'll come out of the other side not relying on them at all, or way less.
I hope
so. I
hope so
really
too.
Do. I hope so too. Got to be some good stuff.
And I hope a lot of that manufacturing comes back.
Right. It should.
Yeah.
Especially like the pharmaceuticals.
I get the pharmaceutical point, and the argument you're going to get from people from the manufacturing side is, hey man, American workers demand a certain wage that we just can't support giving you the products you want at the price you want. And that's really true. I mean, there's a legit reason that things went over there because it's cheap, it's fast, it's efficient, but I think there's so many other, Malaysia would be great. Thailand would be awesome. Anybody that's not China would be grand.
Right.
I think, or Russia. Would be just great. And we ought to look at those other places too and turn them into manufacturing hubs and them into powerhouses in the South China Sea, which would in turn offset China's footprint in the region and put them off balance and make them a little more leery about building islands in the middle of the South China Sea and bullying all their neighbors and being assholes to the world in general, spreading viruses that kill everybody. All the horrible things they do. They're number one on my list of absolute assholes in the world community.
Yeah. Number one, who's number 2 on your list? You got number 2?
Yeah, number 1, I think. Number 2 is probably North Korea, and the only reason they're number 2 is just because they're smaller.
Right.
But they're China's lapdog anyway.
Yeah, they're hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. They are. Kim Jong, Fat Boy Kim.
FBK. Hey, shout out to the first person that downloads our podcast in North Korea.
In North Korea, there's only one internet address, and it's Fat Boy Kim. So unless you're surfing freaky porn sites, he's probably not going to see it.
Well, I was going to say we'll send our first listener a T-shirt unless it's him, and then we won't send it.
I read a book about that, about North Korea, and how at the time of the book, and this was probably 7 or 8 years ago, North Korea Undercover is the name of the book, and it's a great book if anybody wants to read it. I'm telling you, get it at the library, get it on audio. One of my probably top 50 best books I've ever listened to. And at the time, there was only one internet IP address in North Korea. That was, everything else is intranet, like it's their own deal, but there's only one internet address in Seoul, in Pyongyang, and it was Kim's. And they released all the information of what he was surfing.
Oh no.
And it was pretty telling, man. A lot of Disney World stuff, a lot of cartoons, and a shitload of porn. Not at all concerned with world affairs or anything else. He's just eating Cheetos and surfing porn like a fat dictator. Yeah, must be nice to see him.
Well, what else are you gonna do if you're a dictator?
Right? I can think of a lot of things, but anyway, I think China's number one just because of their size and how much, everything's offensive to them. Oh, it's offensive that you say we eat dogs. There's dog markets all over the country. It's offensive to us that you say we started the coronavirus. Clearly, you started the coronavirus. Oh, don't offend us. We'll send an army of people over to your island and put missiles on it or whatever it is. They're just a bunch of assholes, and they're like any other communist government. They just need to be brought down, and then the government, by the people and for the people, can start up there, and they can have a democracy, which is really what needs to happen. And I bet you if they did, the people would just embrace it, and they'd be better off for it.
Sure they would. That would be like a huge undertaking.
Yeah, that would be a war.
That would be a war. That'd be World War III, probably.
For sure.
Right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. My opinion, sooner than later. Later would be far worse.
Yeah, it's only going to get worse from here. The next
but if you
virus
can defund them, that's one thing that I got to say that our current president did really well, as I pour myself another glass of scotch, is through tariffs, it's kind of an evil genius.
Right.
He's managed to drive away business from China. They're looking at other sources for computer parts, for all kinds of manufacturing. And the other countries it's been a boon for them in that region by the South China Sea. And he's really managed to defund them and kind of start to strangle that monster that is the Chinese Communist government. So for that, I give him full props, man. And everybody hated him for it. I can remember listening to the Bloomberg report in the morning, and they would just rail against him, that he was doing this and upsetting the markets and everything else. But what they want is business as usual. Let's sell them missile technology. Let them have aircraft carriers. As long as I get rich, I don't care.
Right.
I care,
Yeah, half of America
but
cares.
some of these guys, right, the working people in America care. I don't want that at my back door. So they can buy more aircraft carriers and start more shit and bully people and kill more people. I mean, millions of people have died under that regime. Millions. And life is cheap over there. They don't give a shit, man. If you want a liver or a kidney or a lung, just inquire. They'll kill somebody for you.
Right.
And take it out and sell it to you.
There's a dude on the corner, just like we have Little Caesars here. They've got little livers over there.
Right. How terrifying that you can find a donor in 5 days.
Isn't that crazy?
It takes years over here to find a donor. Why? Because people have to agree to donate those parts.
Yeah, we're not killing them.
When somebody goes into a prison in China, they actually put them through screenings before they go to jail. They take their blood type. They know what kind of organ donor they can be, what organs are good for harvesting, all that stuff. And when they go in jail, once they find a donor, you're dead, man. They put a plastic bag over your head, zip tie it, and zip tie your hands behind your back and throw you down in a pile of snow and wait for the truck to come get you. I saw the video, actually.
Did you really?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. 16 people standing there with their hands zip tied behind their backs, and the guard was just going along one at a time, shoving a big plastic bag over their head, zip tying around their neck, and just shoving them forward into the snow. They just flop around for 5 minutes till they die, and then they put them in a truck and take them to it was for the Body World exhibit. They were plasticizing all those bodies and selling them to the Body World people over here.
Jeez.
Saying that they were donated corpses.
Oh, okay. That's horrible.
Yeah.
That's a horrible way to die.
And I'm sure they do the same thing with, organ harvesting. They just take out the organs and then kill you.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of money in that, I'm sure.
Tons of money. Hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. People all over the world go there now for organs.
Jeez.
Because they're desperate.
Yeah. This world's sick. Sick.
It's a tough old world.
It is. Wow. All right.
Anyway.
Well, let's wrap up the corona thing. I think overall, my opinion, part of it is that this is kind of strategized for us to slowly take away some of our rights. I know it's serious. It's super serious. A lot of people dying, and it's horrible that people have to go through this in order for whoever's behind our government to take more rights away from us little by little. And it's unfortunate that people have to die for that to happen. What say you, Matt?
I think it's a slippery slope. I agree partially with what you have to say. I think we really need to be careful not to give up too much. We gave up too much after 9/11. The government has a lot of power to take away rights as they see fit. The only thing that really keeps us sovereign as a nation, I think, is that there's so much private gun ownership. It would be tough, short of just annihilating everything for miles, to take city blocks of people that were actually armed. Right. So you'd really have to have the public on your side to do anything major. And that's really what keeps us safe, man. Keeps everybody equal when everybody's got guns. And I think it's a good thing as long as everybody's safe and reasonable and good about it. But I do think you're right. Things like this, man, they just want to be taken care of, man. They want bread and circuses. They want to be entertained. They want to be fed. And they will trade that for liberty.
They'll roll over.
You have to be really careful not to give them up. Yep.
They will roll over for that to happen.
But I think through all of this, the generations growing up through this pandemic, and I think this one will change the world and change the way we operate. They'll be better for the hard times they're about to go through. I'm sure of that. And maybe it'll make the next generations more thoughtful and more interested in taking care of and preserving kind of the world around us as we have it. We're super lucky.
Yeah.
And we've kind of taken it for granted for a long time. So liberty is very important, and so is health. And we need to hold those things dear.
Well, let's hope. Let's hope.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's time for Ask Matt. He's so sexy.
Matt.
It's that time again.
It's that time again. This question actually comes from Don. And he would like to know, here's his question. Matt, I have purchased 400 rolls of toilet paper. How long should a roll last in my house? And how long does it take you to go through a roll of toilet paper?
Wow. Okay, Don.
You must be a hoarder. First of all, 400 rolls of toilet paper.
400
what
rolls.
The crap,
Don, I'm going to call you out. That's wrong. I have currently at my house one, I don't know, Costco bag of toilet paper that's about a third of the way through. We had it before all this started, and we'll probably have it hopefully after all this is over. It takes a long time to go through a roll of toilet paper in my house, but I'm just speaking for my bathroom alone in the master bedroom.
Yours and Julia's bathroom only? All right, so it's just you two in there?
Right. So the kids' bathroom goes through toilet paper a lot faster, and they haven't quite learned to regulate. So I try and tell them, hey, only take a few sheets at a time. And they wrap it around their hand and make this giant Q-tip out of it, you know.
What was that? Are you in the bathroom?
They go through a lot of toilet paper. Yeah. So we're trying to school them up on conserving toilet paper because they have no idea what they're doing. However, I think a roll should last you. God, how long does a roll last you? A week?
Well, there's a couple more questions we need. We need to be more. We need more information. So, like a roll of toilet paper, right? So there's single ply, 2-ply, 3-ply, right? And then there's like regular rolls or like a huge roll, which is like a family size roll. And then do you eat more Taco Bell than someone else? Because if you eat more Taco Bell, then you're going to use more toilet paper, right?
You get your own roll.
Garbage in, garbage out.
It's true, man. It's very true. Unless you eat bean burritos. Those will lock you up.
Oh, that's true. You might use less. You might use no toilet paper at all,
right? At
that point. So, so how long does a roll last you? What was your answer to that?
I would say a week.
One roll lasts a week. So 400 rolls.
I'm set for the next 16 weeks.
If Don is an average pooper,
He's got 3 or 4 years to go.
He's got like 4 years to go.
Yeah.
So he's pretty good.
Excuse me.
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's okay, and he should probably give some of that to his neighbors.
He probably should.
They're probably,
Probably should have
wiping their
done.
butt with leaves and the Sears catalog and stuff.
Does he have?
I used to hear stories about that when I was a kid.
What? Sears catalog
People,
toilet paper?
people wiping their ass with the Sears catalog if they didn't have toilet paper. My grandpa told me when he was a kid in Michigan, they had an outhouse, and they had a Sears and Roebuck catalog in the outhouse, and that's what he would use to wipe his ass with because they couldn't afford toilet paper. But Sears and Roebuck would give them a catalog every year, and they would use a page out of the catalog.
Doesn't it just smear? Like the catalog is like smooth, isn't it?
I don't know what they ate back then. Maybe it was like a clean poop. You know what I mean? Where it's like a one wipe deal. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Is that more rare?
I don't know.
I don't know. How do we go from coronavirus to this?
May or may not be true.
How do we...
God rest his soul.
Huh. Well.
Good old Grandpa Bill. My Grandpa Bill was a Special Forces guy in World War II. He was an OSS in Burma.
Wow.
And he did a lot of special operations work in Burma during World War II against the Japanese.
Huh. Good for him. That's cool.
And I don't think he ever really liked the Japanese the rest of his life. He didn't really care.
No? Well.
No, but I think a lot of guys from that generation,
Yeah, I can understand that, though.
I don't think he hated them, but I don't think he trusted them either.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things that was just ingrained in him. But
yeah.
Anyway, Sears and Roebuck, man. He used the catalog.
Huh. All right. So it was a
I've
catalog.
Never tried it. Maybe we should try it out if things get bad.
Does Sears even make a catalog anymore? They're not even in business anymore.
I think they're out of business. I think their stock is trading for like 15 cents a share. They're in bankruptcy and they have like a few stores open maybe. I really miss them though. I got to be honest.
Well, who has a catalog you can use then?
Shop for tools. I don't know. Victoria's Secret, they make a catalog.
You can wipe your butt with that.
Something to read. I don't know.
Harbor Freight. You get one of those every other week.
Really. I got a flyer with 500 pages.
Yeah, that would
probably
probably work.
Though. I don't know if the ink will smear.
It's not glossy. You'll probably have a picture of a wrench on your butt, but but it would be. You go into bed and your wife's like, "Oh, is that what's on sale this week?" You're like, yeah.
My wife won't get that close to my ass. She knows better.
No. Well, if you got Harbor on one cheek and Freight on the other, I don't know what's in between.
Too funny. One of my guys works at Harbor Freight.
Oh, really?
One of my employees. Yeah, and actually, Julia, my wife Julia, her old boss at Best Buy. He's a honcho at Harbor Freight now.
Yeah.
He always tells me to come in. I just never go in there. Do you ever go in?
I do every now and then. I buy some stuff through there through work. So some grinders and buffers and stuff like that. And they seem to be fine.
Yeah, I think actually the quality's gone up a lot over the over the last 10 years or so. It's gotten better and better. I have some Harbor Freight tools in the house. Most of the stuff I have is from when I was turning wrenches, so it's all Snap-on or Matco or Mac. I have some Craftsman stuff, but I do enjoy the Harbor Freight, and if I have to wipe my ass with it, I guess any old port in a storm, if it's handy, I'll probably use it.
Well, that is definitely a different take.
Didn't you have something you were going to talk about with wipes or something?
Well, you know what? In fact, I do.
Welcome to the Gentleman's Minute. It's an acquired taste.
Okay, we're going to talk about. So we were thinking, people are in their house, they're bored, they need stuff to do. Obviously, everyone's using a ton of toilet paper, so they're not using enough toilet paper, so they have lots left over. So, I was thinking, and I thought I'd bring this up to you, is what are some creative ways you can use your extra toilet paper that you're not using to make the weeks go by faster, right? And then I did some fact checking on why us as Americans, we don't like bidets, right? You very rarely see a bidet in anyone's house here. So we'll talk about bidets as well here a little bit.
Right.
A couple things that came to my mind really for one thing is you can turn yourself into a mummy with your extra toilet paper. Just have your kids, your significant other wrap you up and you could be a mummy, right? How fun would that be? That would be.
I've done that before as a kid, and I can tell you it's really not very much fun.
Especially if it's like a one ply. I mean, you'll end up getting toilet paper burns all over your body. But hey, sacrifice for your family. The cardboard holders, tape them together. You got a lightsaber. How
there you go. Or a pair of binoculars.
Oh, a pair of binoculars. I didn't even think of that. A pair of binoculars.
Did that a lot as a kid. Yeah.
Yeah. Did that work? Could you see farther?
I mean, no, but it looks cool when you're a kid. You know,
it does look.
We had
cool.
a lot of stuff in the Army surplus store, but I could never afford the binoculars. So I would tape 2 pieces of, the 2 toilet paper tubes together. Binoculars. I just hang them around my neck.
I would use it to enhance my voice, where I could yell across the house through that thing.
There you go, like a megaphone.
Megaphone. Nice. A megaphone. You could use it as a megaphone.
You do yak mating calls.
Yak.
It's like that, yeah.
Yeah, just like that. Is that what they sound like? That's what I heard. Yak. Was that Ace Ventura?
Yeah.
Oh, it's classic.
Yep. Great movie.
I love that movie. That was just I'm just trying to help out our audience, like what you can do to pass some of the time since you're at your house. All right, be creative with your toilet paper.
Have you done anything else besides toilet paper play? Since this has all been going on. And another question is your wife working?
Yes. Yeah, she's still working. So
is clothing essential?
It is. It is. I got a letter from Homeland Security that says if I get pulled over, I can keep working. She also got a letter that said she's essential as well. So,
and you see where that goes. I feel like a lot of companies that are essential get those letters, and a lot of companies that might not be essential but have donated a lot of money are essential.
Letters. Right.
Everybody's essential, right?
Well, there's more people out on the road now that we're at a stay-at-home order than there is during a normal day. Seriously.
Did you see that up in Denver today?
Yeah. I'm driving along and I'm like, what? And there's still like traffic jams on I-70 up in Denver still.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's only Denver proper that was initially shelter in place, and then they did when did they do the whole city? Yesterday?
The whole state.
Or the whole state?
Yes, yeah, yesterday evening after 5:00.
Right. I'm shocked that many people were out.
It's nuts. I mean, you can't tell anything's going on at all anywhere.
Really?
Yeah, so many people.
Well, I'll tell you, we took the kids for a walk today, about 11 o'clock. We decided to get out, take a walk, and there was probably 12 other families that we encountered on our walks. We would always go to the other side of the street, or they would go to the other side of the street, and we would, pass each other. But everybody was out walking around the neighborhood, and they do this thing for the kids called a bear hunt, where people put stuffed animals in their windows, and the kids try and spot all the stuffed animals.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then tonight at 6, all the local radio stations were playing the same music. So it was all simulcast on all the local radio stations.
Oh, that's cool.
And everybody could go out on their porches and wave to their neighbors and play some music and have a drink or whatever.
Oh, nice.
That was supposed to go on tonight at 6. There's a lot of different things that I think the generation coming up now will talk about happened when they were kids,
right,
during the great COVID pandemic, which I don't think will stop in 2 weeks. I think it'll stop in maybe 8 or 10 weeks. But
the sooner the better, if you ask me.
Yep, agreed.
Well,
can't go on like this forever.
Well, we were looking at a bidet. We were thinking, like everyone, you see it on Facebook, what should we do with a bidet? We don't have toilet paper. So I'm like, well, why don't you see many bidets here in the U.S.? Well, first of
What is
all,
that?
yeah. Well, let me tell you. First of all, do you know what bidet means in French? Do you know the answer to that?
Is it bidet? Is it to lay wash your lay ass? I don't know. What is it?
Good try. No, it means pony. It means pony because back in the day, you used to straddle it. So the women, it was more women than men, would straddle this thing that looked like a sawhorse with like a little neck to it, and they would straddle it. So that's what it means. It was a pony, and the bidets.
I bet that was a lot of fun for them. Did it have a lot of water pressure?
Well, at first you just kind of had to splash yourself there because there was no water pressure, and then these are when the bidets used to be in the bedroom. They weren't even in the bathroom. They were like, you get up and your bidet's right there when you get up out of your bed.
But wait, was it like a tray of water? It wasn't like it didn't like shoot water at you?
Nope. You had like a little tray down there, like a oil pan. Pan. You'd do a little splishy splash, and then get your Sears catalog.
Leave the old chassis.
Yeah. And then it moved to a little lever. So do you remember back in the old days? They had the little the western town had a little pump where they'd pump the water, and the water would come.
Oh yeah, I remember that vividly.
Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Back in my time.
Back in my day. Well, that's what they had. They had the little pump, so you had to pump the water up your, whatever to wash.
Right.
You had to manually pump it, and then they moved it into the
Hydraulic.
bathroom.
Yeah.
But part of it. So here's why bidets never really caught on here, because there has been a lot of companies off and on over the years try to get different forms of a bidet, or maybe a toilet seat that shoots up your wahoo.
Right.
Bidets, they were thought of as a form of birth control, and there were a lot of bidets used in the sex industry. So a bidet was associated with a symbol of sin back then, and they didn't want that symbol in their house because everyone's going to think, well, something's fishy's going on at the Smith house. She's got a bidet, washing her whatever. So that's why bidet has never really caught on over here, and it still hasn't caught on to this day. I don't even know anyone that has a bidet.
That's really weird. Would you own one?
I don't know. It'd be kind of weird.
I think I totally would. I would totally own one. I heard it's a lot cleaner, and I heard you get a lot cleaner that way.
But don't you still, after you give your butt a shower, don't you still have to wipe? Like, you got to dry off, and you're using toilet paper anyway.
Right, but I think the thinking is when you're wiping your ass with toilet paper, you're just kind of grinding the poop around and trying to get most of it off. And a bidet actually cleans it all off, and then you just sort of dry off your ass with just the toilet paper, and you're done. Would probably use a lot less toilet paper that way.
I guess so. Maybe you'd be down, or maybe you just use a cloth, and everyone shares a cloth throughout the day. You could do that. That's
really gross, man. That's awful. That's really disgusting.
Communal butt cloth.
We're a family. We always share the butt cloth,
Well,
I don't even know.
Well,
I don't even know what to say to you.
I don't even know. But now what you get now, if you look at Amazon or whatever, there's targeted male wipes. They're making wipes just for males now. So it's not focused just on females and bidets and stuff. Yeah. So there's 3 types that I've found. I can't tell you the prices for sure, but one is called bro wipes. The other one's called dude wipes. And the other one is One Wipe Charlie's. That's the name of them. So
do they dissolve in water like toilet paper does?
No, they don't. So here's the problem with that is they're flushing these wipes down the toilet, and when they flush all these wipes down the toilet, they get caught in the pipes and stuff, and they create these things called Fatbergs. I'm not lying either. That's really the name. It's
is that a real name?
It is. So
in like the sewer pipe?
Yeah. Like a huge Fatberg is what it's called. So get
All
this.
right.
In London in 2015, they extracted a 10-ton Fatberg in London in
Holy
2015.
Oh my God, that's so much.
Yeah.
10 tons
10-ton. 10
of,
ton
of
Fatberg.
wipes.
Wipes
And I got to assume they're mostly from women.
Yeah, I would
Because,
assume.
I mean, I don't think the bro wipes have really caught on much, have they?
I doubt anyone's using a bro wipe.
I've never heard of that. So their marketing must suck if they are. Because,
it really must.
you know,
Why would
yeah.
you buy like a set of dude wipes separate from your roll of toilet paper?
I mean, 10 tons of wipes. Can I tell you a quick story?
Sure you
I have
can.
a story about this.
Kind of scared about this now.
No, dude. When I my wife Julia had a house when we met, and I had a house. And when we got married, we consolidated all our things into our, which was at the time my place, and we rented out her house. And we rented her house to this lady who had 2 dogs. She was kind of a fat, obnoxious person. Anyway, she liked to use feminine wipes and not toilet paper. And she plugged up our sewer line really bad with those wipes. So we called out Roto-Rooter, and they went from the vent in the roof of the house. They went down through because they said it would be difficult to remove the toilet. They had to go through the vent pipe and down into the sewer line. And they got down about, and the way her house was laid out, you know, it was about, I don't know, 20 yards or more from the street. And the way the sewer line went, we found out later, was it went out to the alley next to the house and then out to the street. And the guy from Roto-Rooter was slamming down on that snake so hard that he blew the corner out of the pipe in the street.
Oh, geez.
And that cost me, I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars. It was many thousands of dollars, close to, I want to say now, probably close to $12,000.
Good grief.
It cost me to repair that. The Roto-Rooter guy, those guys left the snake in the drain line, in the vent line, up on the roof, never took it out. I had to have it removed when they went and did the work. And one of the local plumbing companies, Olson's, and I actually worked for them when I was younger, and they cut me a sweet deal. They had to like dig into the alley, take everything out, replace it all, and put it in. It was all due to feminine wipes, not using regular toilet paper.
It was all
Which
due
now
to?
we've learned the lesson. If we ever get another rental, we'll just tell them right away, man, that's not allowed. Like, you can't use that stuff. Terrible.
Yeah. I mean, she should have paid for that.
Dude, I had to take a loan. It was we didn't know how we were going to make it. At the time, you know, we were poor as church mice. We were just trying to get by, and it was a teeny little house we were renting out. And really, there's so much liability in renting a home to somebody. We had no business doing it, but we were too young to know at the time.
Yeah.
And we just, you know, it was terrible. We had to take a loan out, get it all fixed up, and then eventually we sold the house. But boy, what a tough lesson that was.
Jeez, that's a crappy lesson to learn right there.
Do you have a drum for that? Do you have like?
No, I have.
That was great.
That's all I got.
That was a crappy lesson.
That was a crappy lesson.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. That's it. You're up.
What else? What else you got? Are we done?
That's all I've got.
Is this the end, Brian?
This might be the end.
All right. I'll go into it. Not a problem. Thanks for listening this week. Thanks to all our listeners, especially in Portugal. Let's download Portugal.
Yeah.
Thanks for another person giving us a 5-star rating. We really appreciate it. Please send us your comments, suggestions, complaints, questions for next week's Ask Matt segment. You can email us at show@ourdifferenttake.com. Don't forget to rate us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to the podcast. Please, guys, we really need to get some 5-star ratings. Really appreciate it if you subscribe. You're going to get a lot of good stuff coming up here pretty soon. You can hear us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Music, radio.com mobile app, the Stitcher. You'll be able to catch us on iHeartRadio in about 2 months. So mark that on your calendar. Thanks again for listening. Brian, thank you very much. It's been a good one.
Yep, very good. Everyone stay safe out there and watch your back.
Keep your heads down. Watch out for the corona.
Peace.
Peace out.